Hello dear students and welcome back to K Gupta's online lecture series. We'll be discussing eco-criticism in this video lecture, how this theory evolved, what is the relationship between humankind and nature, how this theory developed in different stages, and what are the concerns of this theory, eco-criticism, all the things we are going to discuss in this particular video lecture. So be with me to understand eco-criticism. Before we start eco-criticism, we'll discuss criticism and then we'll switch over eco-criticism. Eco-criticism is the study of a work of art in comprehensive way by analyzing and interpreting its different angles. There are many intellectual theories or movements which focus on contemporary issues. The term criticism in literary studies means the scholarly study and interpretation of literature. So criticism is the study of work of art. It is the study of a literature in a comprehensive way. It analyzes and interprets its different angles to that literature. And there are many theories and there are many movements which focus on the issues, especially contemporary issues. And the term criticism in literary studies, it is a scholarly study and interpretation of literature. So criticism is the scholarly study and interpretation of literature. And it is the result of new consciousness regarding environmental issues. The eco-critics raise the important environmental problems that humankind faces because environmental problem is the burning problem today, and that's why eco-critics are conscious about environmental problems and they are constantly raising this problem, environmental problem, on the global platform, and through this theory they are raising the importance of the environment. We have to preserve, we have to save our environment, we have to make our environment worth worth humankind living uh, in this atmosphere. So eco-criticism is about environmental studies. It is about environmental. It is about the problems of environment. It is about the saving environment. So we can define eco-criticism is a study of the relationship between literature and physical environment. What is the definition? Eco-criticism is the study of the relationship between literature and physical environment. It is also called green studies. Eco-criticism is also called green studies. This is a critical approach. Eco-criticism is a critical approach which began in USA in late 1980s. So it had started in USA in 1980s and in UK in early 1990s. In USA, the acknowledged founder is Cheryll Glotfelty, co-editor with Harold Fromm of a key collection of helpful and definitive essays entitled The Ecocriticism Reader, Landmark in Literary Ecology. So in USA, Cheryll Glotfelty is the person who started to collect the essays on environment, and she with Harold Fromm started to publish the essays entitled The Ecocriticism Reader, Landmark in Literary Ecology. In 1992, Cheryll Glotfelty was also co-founder of ASLE, that is Association for the Study of Literature and Environment. Eco-criticism as a concept first arose in 1970s at meeting of Western Literary Association, that is WLA. Eco-criticism is an umbrella term under which a variety of approaches fall. So this is eco-criticism is umbrella term, blanket term, under which there is a variety of approaches, which can make it difficult term to define. As eco-critic Lawrence Buell says, eco-criticism is an increasingly heterogeneous movement. According to Lawrence Buell, eco-criticism is increasingly heterogeneous movement. According to him, it is a heterogeneous movement that is increasing. But simply put, eco-criticism is the study of relationship between literature and the physical environment. This is the definition of Cheryll Glotfelty. Already we have seen. This study was emerged in 1980s on the shoulders of environmental movement began in 1960s with the publication of Rachel Carson's Silent Spring. Eco-criticism has been and continues to be an earth-centered approach. The complex intersections between environment and culture. So this study emerged in 1980s with the environmental movement that had been started in 1960s, and this study also emerged with the publication of Rachel Carson's Silent Spring. And eco-criticism is supposed as the earth-centered movement, earth-centered approach, and it is also believed that human culture and literature is connected to the physical world, affecting it and affected by it. Eco-criticism is interdisciplinary, refers to the collaboration between natural scientists, writers, literary critics, anthropologists, historians, and more. So this is eco-criticism is interdisciplinary and it refers to so many uh, faculties, disciplines. It may be that natural scientists, writers, literary critics, anthropologists, historians, and more. So everywhere it plays its role. And eco-criticism asks us to examine ourselves and the world around us, critiquing the way that we represent, interact with, and construct the environment, both natural and man-made. So, eco-criticism examines, asks us to examine ourselves and the world around us, and it is critiquing the way that we represent, interact with the nature, construct the environment, both environment may be natural environment or man-made environment. Eco-criticism is a new field in literary studies, the study of literature with a special attention to the significance of nature in literature. It is a scholarly study of nature writing, that is green writing or green studies. So eco-criticism is also called green writing or green studies. Eco-criticism is one of the most recent schools of literary theories emerging in mid-1990s. So this eco-criticism, as we know, that it is the study of literature with special attention to the significance of nature in literature. So it tries to study the nature in literature, and that this is a scholarly study of nature writing. It is a scholarly study of green writing or green studies, and this movement started in School of Literary Theories in mid 1990. William Ruckert has first coined the term eco-criticism in 1978 in his essay Literature and Ecology, an experiment in criticism. So William Ruckert first coined this term eco-criticism in 1978 in his essay Literature and Ecology, an experiment in eco-criticism. According to him, eco-criticism means the application of ecology and ecological concepts to the study of literature. So, his definition of eco-criticism is the application of ecology and ecological concepts to the study of literature. Eco-criticism focuses on material context of industrialization, development, pollution, and ecocide, while developing a frame for reading. So this theory focuses on material context of industrialization. Context of industrialization, obviously development will be there, and after development there will be pollution, and after this industrialization, development and pollution there will be ecocide, means the destruction of the nature, destruction of the environment. And eco-criticism is a broad way for literary and cultural scholars to investigate the global ecological crisis through the intersection of literature, culture, and the physical environment. This theory and the eco-critics, the scholars, they investigate the crisis of environment, and they are trying to investigate through intersection of literature, culture, and physical environment. Many refer to eco-criticism synonymously as a study of literature and environment. So this can be synonymously said that it is a study. Eco-criticism can be synonymously said that a study of literature and environment, or environmental criticism. Eco-criticism can be said or can be synonymously used. It can be synonymously used as literature and environment and environmental criticism. In eco-criticism, it is supposed that there are two waves, first and second wave. Several scholars have divided eco-criticism into two waves, recognizing the first as taking place throughout the 80s and 90s. The first wave is characterized by emphasis on nature writing as an object of study. So in first wave, it was characterized by emphasis on the nature writing. In first wave, the emphasis was on nature writing as an object of study and as a meaningful practice. They suppose this is the meaningful practice to write on nature as the object of study, and it is as a meaningful practice. Writing on the nature is supposed as a meaningful practice, and central to this wave and to the majority of eco-critics still today is environmental crisis of our age, seeing it as the duty of both the humanities and the natural science to raise awareness and invent solutions for a problem that is both cultural and physical. So for this environmental crisis, it is the duty of humanities and natural science to raise the awareness among the people and to invent the solutions and tell the people about the solutions to save the environment, to preserve the environment, because this may be a problem both cultural and physical. As such, a primary concern of this first wave of eco-criticism was to speak for nature. So concern was to speak for nature and the writing that it may be about the nature, and this is perhaps where eco-criticism gained its reputation as an avowedly political mode of analysis. This wave, unlike its successor, kept the cultural distinction between human and nature, promoting the value of nature. So, in this first wave, the eco-criticism was to speak for nature, and perhaps that there was a reputation. Eco-criticism gained its reputation as it was the avowedly political mode of analysis. And this wave, unlike its successor, kept the cultural distinction. It kept the cultural distinction between human and nature, and it promotes the value of nature. The second wave is particularly modern in its breaking down of some of the long-standing distinctions between the human and non-human, questioning these very concepts. The boundaries between the human and non-human, nature and non-nature, are discussed as constructions and eco-critic challenges these constructions, asking how they frame the environmental crisis and its solution. It examines how pastoral and wilderness is presented through the work of art. So this second wave is modern in breaking down the long-standing concepts, that is distinction between human and non-human. It questions these concepts and the boundaries between human and non-human, nature and non-nature. These things are discussed in this second wave as constructions, and eco-critics challenge these constructions, asking how they frame the environmental crisis and its solutions. That eco-critics ask how they frame the environmental crisis and its solutions. It also examines how pastoral and wilderness is present through the work of art, how this is pastoral and wilderness is presented through the work of art by the poets, by the authors. So, in this second wave, it is supposed that there was a clear-cut boundaries between human and non-human, nature and non-nature, and it is supposed as a constructions, and eco-critics challenge these constructions, these concepts, and asking how they frame the environmental crisis and its solutions. And it also examines the pastoral and wilderness is whether it is presented and how it is presented through the literature or through the work of art. In many literary works of art, the focus is on how wilderness is presented in literature and popular culture. This approach examines the ways in which wilderness is constructed, valued, and engaged. The representation of wilderness in British and American culture can be separated into few main tropes. So this second wave is about how the wilderness and pastoral is presented through the literature and through the popular culture, and this approach examines in which wilderness is constructed, valued and engaged, and that representations of wilderness in British or in American culture can be separated into few main tropes. The postmodern scenario. The postmodern world of literature was affected by scientific discoveries as well as technological development. So, in this postmodern scenario, the literature was affected by scientific discoveries, and with scientific discoveries, it was also affected by technological development. And the result of this, the human civilization was totally affected by the problems of environment and ecology. Because of scientific discoveries and technological development, industrialization, the human civilization was affected by the problems of environment because there is a relation between human civilization and the environment or ecology. Eco-criticism was commenced by the publication of two influential works, both we have discussed. The two influential works, both published in 1996. The first was the Eco-Criticism Reader. It was edited by Cheryll Glotfelty and Harold Fromm. And the second was the Environmental Imagination by Lawrence Buell. So these two texts are important. First was by Cheryll Glotfelty, the Eco-Criticism Reader, and second is the Lawrence Buell, because this eco-criticism was commenced by the publication of these two influential texts. The book Association for the Study of Literature and Environment pays particular attention to the representation of natural world and how earth is represented as commodity. So the another text, the Association for the Study of Literature and Environment, it pays attention to the representation of the natural world. It has discussed the representation of natural world and how the earth is represented as the commodity, how we look at the earth as commodity. But earth is not commodity. It should not be like commodity, but it should be preserved, because it should be preserved as a mother, because it gives us lot of things. We are dependent on ecology. We are dependent on the nature. That's why we have to preserve it. And ecocentric perspectives give special emphasis to writers who think nature as a major part of their subject matter, such as American transcendentalists. So this ecocentric perspective is it gives special emphasis on writers who think nature as a major part of their subject matter. So this eco-criticism thinks that nature should be the subject matter of the writers. It should be subject matter of the poets, and that's why, like American transcendentalists, they write about the nature. The nature writing combines aesthetic and spiritual sensitivities with scientific observation and knowledge. And nature writing involves personal reflective essays grounded in appreciation of the natural world and of science, but also open to the spiritual meanings and the value of physical creation. So there should be that the essays should be personal and reflective essays, and that essays should be in appreciation of the natural world. There should be the sensitivity, there should be scientific observation, and there should be knowledge in these natural or the writing of nature writings. And it should combine aesthetic and spiritual things with scientific observation and knowledge. And with that, these personal essays should also give some spiritual meaning and value of the physical creation with it. The stages in the development of eco-criticism. There are three stages of the development of eco-criticism. The first stage in the development of eco-criticism is concerned with the representation of nature in literature. So it is about how the nature is represented through literature. It includes the study of nature in work of art as utopia. So nature in the literature, it should be as utopia. It should be a perfect imagined place like Westland, paradise, tourist spot, or the place of salvation. The second stage of eco-criticism is about recovery of nature writing and ecologically oriented text. It restudies the masterpieces of literature having vast themes of environment and ecology. In this second stage, the eco-critics collect the texts which are nature oriented, which are ecologically oriented, and they restudy the masterpieces of the literature and they try to study it again with the theme of environment and ecology. And the third stage is about putting theories of environment and ecology to create awareness about the dying earth. And in this third stage, eco-critics put the theories of environment and ecology before the reader, before the people, and they make awareness in them about the dying of the nature or dying of earth. So the examples of eco-criticism in literature. The historian Arnold Toynbee recorded the effects of human culture or civilization upon the land and nature in his book Mankind and Mother Earth in 1976. In Indian literature, Ramchandra Guha, the most important environmental historian, has discussed environmental issues in his book Nature, Culture and Imperialism in 1995. And the ecofeminism, the nature writing by female writers, is the byproduct of this eco-criticism. In 1995, Thomas Hardy has faithfully portrayed the picture of nature and ecological problems of the time in his poem The Breaking of Nations. Tennyson's Locksley Hall describes the effects of technological change on the ecology. So what are the examples? Arnold Toynbee's Mankind and Mother Earth, Ramchandra Guha's Nature, Culture and Imperialism, Thomas Hardy's The Breaking of Nations, and Tennyson's The Locksley Hall. These are the examples of the writing about eco-criticism or writing about the nature, about the green studies. The movie The Inconvenient Truth. In this movie, ex-President Al Gore deals with the burning issues of global warming and global cooling. So this is also an example of the eco-criticism, and the romantic poetry is full of environmental reflections about the nature. Thomas Gray's Elegy written in country churchyard is the best example of nature writing and eco-criticism. So Thomas Gray, his elegy written in country churchyard is also an example of nature writing. There are some questions that how is the nature represented whether negatively or positively in literature. It studies whether the writers are eco-conscious or not. Or the second question will be what role does the geographical setting play in the structure of novel or drama? So these are the questions that eco-critics want to study. He wants to study these questions, and eco-critics believe that human culture is related to the physical world and nature. Obviously, human culture and nature is related to each other, and eco-criticism assumes that the entire life and environment is interlinked because human is dependent on the nature. Man is dependent on the nature, and that's why this assumption is correct that entire life and environment is interlinked. Eco-criticism is an application of ecology and ecological concepts to the study of literature. They reread major literary works from ecocentric perspectives with particular attention to the representation of natural world. They apply the issues of growth, energy and natural resources, environmental balance and imbalance, mutability, sustainable development, atomic war or nuclear war threats, pollution and population explosion, garbage dump. All these issues are considered as the matter of academic discourse. The area of eco-criticism consists of fiction, non-fiction, travel writing, memoir, regional literature, political documents, global warming agendas, etc. To conclude, nature writing or eco-criticism, it is not just about the nature, it is not just about the environment, but it is also about the human relationship with the nature, with how the human is dependent upon the nature, how there is the link between human and the nature, and it studies the relationship between literature and physical environment. It studies the natural aspects with reflective mind rather than philosophical attitude. They depict the dangerous environmental damages throughout their text. Generally, eco-criticism can be applied for interpreting a text through an ecological lens with a view towards nature or examining an eco-critical factors ideology within the text. Thank you for watching this video. You can hit the like button if you like this video. You can share this video and do not forget to subscribe this YouTube channel. Thank you very much and have a nice day.